Hello, hello. Wow, is that what I look like? Hello, hello. Welcome to Community Conversations. Filling in for the great Ethan Smith today. Give me a shout. Let me know where you're coming in from, and we'll take it away. Excited to have everybody here and excited to be here. I have big shoes to fill. It's tough to fill in for Ethan, but we'll give it our best shot. Ethan is good. Ethan's good. He asked me to fill in for him. Just had some stuff going on at work, and I'm happy to be here, and hopefully I can do him justice because he's a tough act to follow. I agree. My photo is definitely old. That was from when I received the Hero Award in 2019. So that's like 5 years ago. So I mean, I still got the baby face as long as I shave. So it's not really too different. But um, I was 21 in that photo. So definitely quite a bit ago. Remember that day like it was yesterday, though. One of the best days of my life. Mexico City, awesome to have you. Houston, New Mexico, Athens, Georgia. Yeah, Sam, I can't wait to be on a panel with you. That's so exciting. I was so happy to see your name. Matthew, so good to see you. I love following everything you're doing. Philly. Okay, so we got some East Coast representation. If you would call, is that considered East Coast? Might be, some people might say Midwest. I don't know. I count it as East Coast. Um Northeast representation at least. Maine. All right, so we got some Northeast. Amy, thank you for the compliment. I definitely pride myself in being enthusiastic. When it comes to talking about OCD, I mean, I could talk about it for days. Um, Ethan is good. He's doing well. He just couldn't be here tonight, so I'm filling in for him. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Tom Smalley. I'm an IOCDF lead advocate. Um, been working with the IOCDF for, man, probably since I was about 16 years old, 17 years old. I started speaking at conferences, and then my role just grew from there, and we kept collaborating. And the IOCDF has a very secure place in my heart, and this as does this community. So I'm super excited to be here. Mike, great to see you here. Mike, was it your birthday recently? Erica, great to see you. Michael, great to see you. So happy you're here. Excited to see you speak on some panels this summer at the conference. Happy birthday to Mike. Belated birthday to Mike Sizemore. Miami Beach. I was there actually last year at this time. First time viewer, too. That's awesome. Happy to have you here. Today, I'm down to talk about whatever you guys ask. I'm an open book as an IOCDF advocate that struggles with OCD himself. I was diagnosed when I was 16. For those of you that don't know me, I'll reintroduce myself one more time. My name is Tom Smalley. I'm a lead advocate for the IOCDF. Been working with the IOCDF for about a decade now, which is crazy to think about. It's amazing to see what this community has turned into and what it started as and what it's turned into. Um, Man, I mean, some most of the best people I know are in this community. So you all are my heroes, and I'm super excited to be able to advocate alongside you. Yeah, I can't wait for the conference too. I feel like every year it's just such a special few days, and you can't you can't replicate it elsewhere. It's just an amazing feeling being around a community that supports each other like we do, and people that deal with similar challenges and go through such similar things. Being able to relate and in person as well is just tremendous. Yeah, we can get a link to the conference. If you go on iocdf.org slash events, I'm pretty sure we there is a web page just for the conference. Um, I'll have there's Amanda's just on it already. She's the brain power behind this operation. I don't have a lot of I don't have I just am here to talk. Yeah, so if you click on that link right there, iocf.org/programs/conferences. You'll see all the different events and conferences and programs we have going on. Um, I encourage everybody to check out not even just the in person, um, but I know we just had a tremendous Faith and OCD conference um, and a BDD conference, and we've had so many tremendous events. So check them all out because it definitely is worth every single minute of your time being a part of this community. Thank you, Mike, for the compliment. Cash, great to see you or virtually see you, and I'm happy you're here. I think you've been on one of my live streams before, but I won't take it too personally that you don't remember me. Just as a general reminder, this live stream is educational and is not intended to replace therapy. For treatment related questions, please work with your provider or contact a local clinician. You can use the IOCDF's online resource directory at iocdf.org/find-help to locate a trained clinician near you. The International OCD Foundation is not a crisis hotline. If you are in a crisis or you ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please call the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. You can also access online at www.988lifeline.org or go to your local emergency room or call 911. And just as another reminder, we want to create a safe space for everybody. So please be kind and respectful to everyone. At the end of the day, this is why we're here to support each other. And this is also being broadcast on several social media platforms and is being recorded. So I'm again super excited to be here. Give me a shout where you're from. It looks like we're getting some people in now, so um, thank you for taking time at whatever time it is in where you are right now to be here with our community. Um, I'll get to start and ask any questions you have, and I'll answer everything that I possibly can. Um, I've had OCD I was diagnosed when I was 16 years old. I'm 26 now. Um, and a lot of my subtypes centered around just right OCD, violent and sexual intrusive thoughts, um, karma, moral scrupulosity. So I've had a lot of different subtypes, and it's been quite a journey. So I'm happy to answer anything and everything. At 7:07 p.m., Terracotta Ciabatta, that's an awesome username, said, I was diagnosed when I was 17. I'm still struggling and I'm 33. What does real recovery look like? Can there be relapses? And how do you not get upset when this happens? That's such a good question, especially to start out with. Um, I mean, wow. I'm so sorry you still feel like you're struggling. and I know how hard that can be. Um, I think real recovery can be different for everybody, but in a sense, the real recovery is that you have a life that you not only just survive but you thrive, and you deserve that life. So I think um, with the combination of ERP and for me it was ERP, ACT, medication. Those were things that really helped me and really saved my life. But um, that doesn't mean that you can't have relapses. I remember specifically there was a time when I was 20 years old, and I had been diagnosed when I was 16 years old, and was struggling with suicidal ideation, and was just having a was housebound, and my therapist was doing home visits, and just absolutely debilitated, 14 to 15 hours of compulsions a day. And you know, therapy and treatment, effective ERP, um, and ACT therapies really is what helped me through that, along with my amazing support system. But then at age 20, I went into a situation where a lot of people in this community know the situation I was in college, where I was abused by my coach for having OCD, and by a trusted adult. I was abused every day, verbally, psychologically, called things like the next school shooter. Make sure you take your crazy pills. He'd hang pictures in my locker of like the Unabomber. So um, that sent me into a pretty bad relapse, and for a while, I was super ashamed that I had been in recovery for 5 years, and then all of a sudden 4 years rather, all of a sudden, I'm back, kind of back. I'm taking two steps back because now it's, oh wow, I'm super triggered, and there's a high amount of stress in my life from this abuse that I'm experiencing and that I'm going through. And now I have to take a step back and recognize, like, hey, I need to make sure that I am taking care of my OCD again. And for a while, it was definitely super tough to understand that recovery isn't linear, right? Recovery doesn't just, you don't wake up one day after doing ERP for 6 months and all of a sudden it's, OCD is gone. But recovery does look like having a fruitful and fulfilling life, right? And loving waking up every morning. And so um, I think not getting upset, I think uh, suppressing those emotions doesn't help us. I think it's totally valid to feel upset when you relapse or when you fall back into compulsions. That's totally valid, right? And then you can also, like, two things can exist at once. This is what something I tell my athletes all the time. Two feelings can exist at once, right? You can feel sorry and get upset about relapsing or having a hard time, and then also look towards the future and understand what you have to do in the now to help you move past that relapse in that moment. Um, so I think it's really important just to remember that, like, all feelings are valid, and there's no reason to not get upset. Um, what we don't want to do is lean into the compulsions more. So if you have your ways of accessing treatment and relying on the coping mechanisms from ERP, I think it's super important to rely on those when in those times of relapse. Alex at 712. I see you said I got recommended to do ERP and now trying to find a provider, but also recommended to do CBT. I have OCD, anxiety, depression, autism. Should I start with ERP and then go to the CBT and or DBT? I ERP is a form of cognitive behavioral therapy. Um, it's very much in that realm. So I think you have to that's something you talk about with your provider, and once you find a provider, um, I think it's also something you have to ask you what's affecting you the most in this current moment. Um, but definitely talk about that with your provider that you find, and definitely go to the online resource center at the ICDF. Nathan, I have not talked to that coach in 6 years. So I don't think I'll ever be talking to him. But I agree. I mean, everybody's dealing with something. So many people have a struggle you don't know about. Um, I didn't. I never spoke to that coach after the news story broke out. What happened was I went through that abuse, and then a huge news story broke out in Sports Illustrated, CBS News, USA Today, and I was thrown into a national spotlight that I wasn't prepared for at age 20. So, uh, you know, with the IOCDF's help, I use that as a platform to educate and just try to break the stigma around OCD. Matthew, I totally agree. If you can overcome OCD once, you can do it over and over and over again. Sarah, that's a really unique situation. I don't think I've ever met someone that has that's a OCD therapist and or a mental health therapist and is treating their son. I would love to hear more about what that's like. I'm sure it's super hard to separate the two between being a parent and a therapist, um, and it's totally valid to feel helpless. And um, I'd be curious what it would look like for someone else to also help him because that's a lot for you to take on, and I give you a lot of credit. I see a lot about COVID. I think people kind of you know, over time, just like we as a society, like, it was all about COVID and all of a sudden someone decided like, oh, we can live with it. And now we're forgetting that like long COVID is a thing and people are still struggling. And so um my empathy to everybody in the chat that's struggling and is afraid of getting COVID and is at risk. It's super scary. And um I empathize with that completely. It's something that, um, especially having OCD, it's super challenging to navigate. Cheryl, your son is now 35 with OCD, has been to residential 5 times, is struggling big time. How do we motivate him to use what he knows? He is avoiding all help. How can we best help him? I'd love some help with the comments and to help Cheryl as well. I'll give my 2 cents. I was I think showing him what life is like without OCD, by showing him the amount of time he can get back will motivate him a ton. Um, I think when I had I mean I still have OCD. When I was in treatment, um, you know, intensive treatment, it was kind of like once I was on I wanted to get better because I my mind was just so loud and I was struggling so much, but I also felt lost and hopeless. And I think I didn't really believe in treatment until I actually saw how much time in life I could get back from treatment. I agree with Beth. You know, definitely requires the part of your son wanting to accept that help and wanting it for himself. Um, I think that can be challenging to force upon somebody, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer for some people to want that help and accept that help. I think using, like Beth said, directing resources and directing him here to watch these videos, engage with people in the chat, I think can really help motivate people for for treatment and help motivate people to accept that help, because you're seeing other people that have been through that go through similar things and have been through similar journeys, and you're seeing how they're thriving in their life, um, and navigating OCD. Keep asking questions. I'm happy to tell you more about me, but I also want to be able to ask all of you or answer all of your questions as well. So definitely throw them in the chat. Let's get Beth horseback riding. That's a great goal. I just did a webinar on goal setting with athletes, and when you think of long-term goals, like that's an outcome goal. You want to go horseback riding, right? That's an event. If you go, um, if you want to set a goal of that, make sure to set make sure to set 3 short-term goals, process goals that will help you get there. Um, I think that is super helpful and makes us able to process the goal more. Um, at 7:22, when did you realize you need help? I think I realized that I was dealing with something that I thought I was the only one in the world that was dealing with, when I was in 8th grade, when I was about 14. And then it really started to pour on 15 years old and 16 years old. And I was doing 14 to 15 hours of compulsions a day. Couldn't, couldn't hide them at that point. And then it got, so bad that, I didn't see a purpose of living. And that's when I realized, like, man, like I need help and I need it fast. And it's a scary point to get to. And I think the IOCDF and in our community in general is doing such a better job of getting people diagnosed earlier and helping people, recognize that they might be dealing with OCD. I think the more awareness there is, the higher education there is for it. Sarah, my son Aaron is listening with me. If you have any suggestions, like what do you wish you knew at his age that might be helpful? Man, I love this question. Age 9. I mean, I think the first thing that I would tell Aaron that I wish I would knew that I wish I would have known is that, like, we're all born to be custom. We're custom made, right? Like, we're individuals. So don't try to fit a mold. And just because you're dealing with something and struggling with something doesn't mean, one, that you won't get through it, and two, that it makes you any less of a human being or makes you any less deserving of good things. I think from as early as I can remember, I was my worst critic and didn't feel like I deserved any good things because I was having these thoughts. And I hope your son knows that he deserves all good things in his life. And he's going to do amazing things for this world. And that, he's going to impact a lot of lives with his own journey. And it's probably super hard to see that at age 9, but man, if he can hear me say that, I would be very happy with how this live stream went tonight. When I started advocating, it was never about, how many people. It was just about, can I impact any single person? Because if I impact one person's life, then I'm doing my job, and I'm fulfilling my purpose in life of serving others in this community. So I mean, like, um, I hope Aaron is listening and understands that um, he's loved, he's supported by people he doesn't even know, and we're in this together, man. We're in this together. Gail, 724. I did live with a roommate in college. Was that possible? My roommate is to this day one of my best friends. I was in his wedding in September. Um, and yeah, it was possible. I mean, he definitely. I was pretty upfront about my OCD and going into college. And I didn't hide things, and we just had a really authentic relationship, and I was really, really fortunate for that. But I think because I was upfront about things and just honest and genuinely me, I think he respected that and really and valued that. Because in return, it meant he could be himself too, and he could put his guard down. He was a basketball player, and I think, like, when you're a part of a team, like, you have to be a part of a certain culture, and fit a certain mold. And then with me, it was like, yo, like, you don't need to act cool or be someone that you're not. Like, you could just be you. Like, I'm me, and I'm a mess. Like, like, I'm always, dealing with things and going through things. So, like, you can be vulnerable with me. Like, being vulnerable is not weakness. Um, so I had a really, really unique relationship, and I still do to this day with him. And I live actually 10 minutes from him now, so it's been awesome. Um, yeah, I mean, you know, I consider him family. I consider his family family. Like, I go there for Thanksgiving. It was incredible. I mean, he's been nothing but a true friend to me. So, um, anybody that's struggling with, you know, should I get a roommate or should I not get a roommate or do I need a roommate? Um, that's totally you decision. I am a firm believer that life is life is found outside your comfort zone. Right? Everything good comes out of our comfort zone. Everything that's meant for you is outside your comfort zone. Right? And so pursue that. Right? Because we're pursuing the uncertainty that OCD doesn't want us to pursue. Right? And so we're leaning into that. So you might as well lean into it fully and pursue things out of your comfort zone as well. Really good questions, guys. I love how active this chat is. Nobody wants to hear me talk about my life. Come on. Phyllis at 726. I really have trouble with motivation and time management. We know people with OCD have executive function deficits, not to mention demotivating depression. Any advice? Yeah, that's a really, so I have a comorbid diagnosis of OCD and ADHD. And actually, my OCD really masked the ADHD for a long time. And I really struggled in school for a while because I didn't know how to be a student. And I didn't have, um, my high school was super supportive, but even they didn't really know too much about OCD. And, but I had a 504 plan, had an IEP at one point. So I had a lot of extra help and had a lot of support. But that would be where I would start, is find a support system that you can rely on, even if it's just one person. And then when it comes to time management and motivation, those two things are kind of tied together. So if you schedule yourself and create better habits, and creating better habits is, a topic I could talk about forever. I highly recommend the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. I give it to all my athletes when they graduate high school or college. It's phenomenal. And so the idea of building habits and time management and motivation is make the habit accessible, make it easy, and make it so that it's around you all the time. So if I wanted to read every morning, but Kindle was in my backpack, I'm not it's not available. I'm not gonna think of it. I'm gonna say, never mind. I'll do it tomorrow. If it's on my dresser or my bedside table, I'm gonna be more apt to do that. So motivation is gonna come and go. Anybody that tells you they're motivated, you're looking at a national Olympic weightlifter, a mental performance coach, strength coach, right here, right now. Someone that's also, fought OCD for 10 years, right? Like, I do not wake up motivated every day, right? That's just like the reality. It is super hard to wake up motivated every day. And quite frankly, I think people are lying if they say they do. But that's when our disciplines come into play. We have to rely on our discipline to do our daily habits and rely on our discipline to engage in our ERP, because that is what's going to carry us forward. CJ at 726. How hard was it to talk to others about harm to others? Thoughts? Did your parents freak out? Man, yeah. My parents didn't freak out. I give my parents so much credit, man. I'm surprised my mom's not in this live, honestly. She's usually an active one. Um, but I give my parents so much credit. I mean, they took it all in stride and really, um, man, I just gave them a shout on my podcast the other day when someone asked me, if you could give a hug to anybody, who would it be? I said my mom, because I mean, she sacrificed so much for me. Whether it was not going anywhere on weekends, or going to see her friends, or doing her own hobbies, coming home from work early, like whatever it was, I was at the forefront of her mind. Whether I needed to be or not, that's how she was. Like, she's just the most unselfish person I know. And so, um, my parents didn't freak out as much. I think they were definitely, there's always a shock factor, right? When I say, like, my violent intrusive thought was like, I'm worried I'm going to lose control and stab you in the throat, right? Like, there is a shock factor. And if you don't know OCD, it's actually super alarming to people, because if I went outside right now and said to my neighbor, "Hey, I'm worried I'm going to stab you," they'd probably report it. That's a perceived threat. But with OCD, we know we're not going to. Like, we know it's an irrational thought, but we can't decipher that it's completely irrational. So we're going to give into that OCD, right? And so, I think it was harder to tell people that were not within my circle and new people that I was meeting, because if they didn't know about OCD, they were taking 3 steps back, like, yo, that kid is crazy. Especially at my age, when I was diagnosed at 16, 17. And then I think in dating, it was really tough. I mean, I recently just got out of a 5-year relationship, and it's super tough to open up about OCD in general, and then it's also super tough to open up about those specific thoughts. And you're not required to, but let's be honest, if we want to have a real, genuine, authentic, vulnerable relationship, you're probably going to need to open up about those things eventually, right? And it usually will make you feel more comfortable being your full, authentic self. So I think I really struggled with, that part is pretty tough for me. And just, I think, first educating them on what OCD is, and then leading into the thoughts, if you're gonna talk about them, because leading with the thoughts, if they don't know about what OCD is, they're gonna be a little bit, like, confused and a little bit alarmed. I assume positive intent, but I also assume innocent ignorance, right? Like, hey, this person probably doesn't know what I'm talking about. It's not their fault. Let's educate them. And then when you're educating them, we need to make sure that it's more of a, you know, calm education, and not something like, us going at people, because once we get too emotional and too riled up, people are less likely to take us seriously. How do you know what are intruding thoughts and what are your normal instincts or fears? Whew, hard hitters. That's a good question, Lori. I think I trust my gut with that kind of stuff. I mean, like, if I was outside and, our brain perceives threat as threat, right? But like because of our experiences, we understand and what we're taught, we understand what a real threat is and what's an OCD thought. And I think because of therapy and treatment, I'm able to identify what's OCD and what's not OCD. Gail, yes, my roommate is a very good dude. I mean, can't say enough good things about Tom. Yeah, his name was Tom also, but nobody called me Tom. Nobody calls me Tom around here. Really, in my friend circle, it's always small, so we haven't ever gotten confused. He was also 6'7" and I was 5'9", so not much confusion going on there. CSCS stands for Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. I got my bachelor's in psychology um, and my master's in exercise and sports science. And then I actually just went back to school for sports psych certification and take my exam in the fall. I love all the support that that I'm seeing for Beth and and for everybody. I love the way y'all support each other and show up for each other. It's something that always inspires me every single time I'm on a live stream, at a conference, on an online conference. It just it just leaves me speechless every time. Let me see if I can get my mom on here. Hang on, I'm gonna call her real quick. I'm gonna phone her in. Let's see. It's unlike her not to answer. She's usually first ring answer.
I was watching you.
Oh, you're watching me?
I was, yeah.
Oh
When did you do that?
no, you're on right now.
Oh, I am?
Yeah, I phoned you in.
Hello.
Um, everybody wanted to, I gave you a shout, so everybody wanted to hear from you too, because I said you were the most unselfish person I know, and that you sacrificed a tremendous amount for me, and we've been through it all. So I just wanted to give you a shout and tell you I love you, and everybody here is wants to hear from you. So drop some comments in there, okay?
I absolutely will, and I love you so much.
All right,
Okay, honey.
bye bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that's my mama. Um, I know, like, and I think one thing that I always empathize with is that, like, I know how blessed I am to have the support system I have. Having a family that's super close. Do we fight? Yeah. And were there really, really tough times? I mean, me and my mom would tell you, like, we've been through it together. We're so much alike that we butt heads sometimes, but I'd be nowhere without my support system, and they're definitely my rocks for sure. There she is. She gonna have to go back to 7:30 later after this is over, so she can hear her shout out. Um, yeah, CJ, that's a really really common thought that and feeling that people with OCD have, and really, um, anytime, whether it be physical or mental illness, where your parents had to sacrifice a lot of their time, energy. For me, like, it was time, energy, and then also the funds, right? Like, treatment isn't cheap, right? Healthcare in the US is kind of a joke. And it's super challenging for me to feel like, I didn't you put them in a hole, or I didn't, limit their my mom and my dad going away together, or so many different things that, like, I always felt guilty about and held on to for so long, and still, go back to sometimes, like, dang, like, I took this away from them. They sacrificed this for me. Like, I totally get it. That's a very, very common thought, a very common feeling. but just know they're your parents. They love you. They want um that's their job, man. That's their job. That's their job to show up for you no matter what, and they would do it over and over and over again. And that's kind of what I've learned. Um, was your mom an enabler like I am? How did she fight the enabling? My therapist was pretty strict about that. She still is. My mom jumped on a therapy session about a month, no, like 2 months ago. Yeah, and I mean, like, it wasn't about enabling, but like, she's always like, we're always trying to stay connected and understand like our relationship, because as you get older, your relationship changes, right? Like, my mom did so much for me, and she still does so much for me, right? But in different ways, right? Like, I'm a functional adult and live on my own, and you know have a career, and she doesn't need to make sure that I'm not scaling the walls and opening the door 55 times anymore, right? Because I know my ERP coping skills, and I know, I've been doing that for 10 years, but she needs to still be there for me, like just like a mother does, right? And so I think, um, you know, your relationship with your mom changes so much over time when you have OCD, because they're not fully used to like not having to be right there at your hip all the time, right? Because they're so concerned about you every day. And I'm sure my mom will tell you she probably worries about me every day, regardless. But um, I think that was like a tough adjustment for me to almost articulate to my mom. That's a lot of it's on me to not articulate, like, hey, like, I need you to support me in this way and not in this way anymore, because it was almost like I didn't want to hurt her. Um, because I still need her in my life. I still want her in my life, but it doesn't mean I need that part of it, right? So it's just, and then part of it is like enabling, is something that really you have to. It's important, in my opinion, for families to be in on OCD treatment at some point, right? It doesn't need to be every session, but like, hey, like, let's get together and understand what OCD is, because if the whole family's educated, it's one cohesive unit, right? It's so much better for recovery if the whole family, because if my mom is enabling and my dad was, then I'm still getting the enabling. So like, having them all on the same page is super super important. HG, I love that. Stick with the ick. Shout out Katie O'Dunn, who just completed her oral defense for her doctorate. So big congratulations to her. And I love to stick with the ick. I love to stick with the ick slogan. Sorry, me reading and then also talking at the same time is not conducive. Um, no, my mom definitely doesn't. Not she does not enable now. I would say, I mean, the first 3 months of us on trying to understand what OCD is, everybody enabled because we just didn't understand. And then once she sat in on therapy and really started digging into what OCD is, she was spot on with that. And um, I think it's hard for a parent because they want to provide that relief for you, but they know actually long term not providing that relief and seeing you, suffer to some extent is going to help you long term. Does just right OCD still affect you to this day? My core fear isn't about anything really bad happening, except it's more of a fear of being uncomfortable. I have to rhyme words constantly. Um, yeah, no, just right OCD is definitely like my themes are still violent, intrusive, and a lot of them are a little bit more like, if something good happens, something bad's the universe is gonna make something bad happen so that it counteracts that. Make that make sense? I don't know, but it's like karma, morals. So I still have like themes, but then what my just right OCD when it comes into play is really with the compulsion. So if I was to go, tie my shoe, my just right OCD would want me to tie it until it's felt just right. So it still sticks with me, but then it's just leaning into that uncertainty of like what's going to happen if I don't if this doesn't feel just right. I might slip and hurt somebody. I might lose control and hurt somebody. Okay, let's see if it happens. And just leaning into that uncertainty and sticking with that ick, like Katie O'Dunn would say. Uh, Lana Love, terracotta is ciabatta a food dish? Ciabatta is a type of bread, and it is delicious. Highly recommend. My mom wants everybody to know that they can reach out to them via message, and she's happy to be a support to anyone. We got about 13 minutes left, so keep dropping questions. I'm happy to answer. I like how we're all talking about ciabatta bread now. I like Trader Joe's has these ciabatta rolls. Highly recommend. Put like a chicken cutlet on a ciabatta roll. How did I get involved with OCD advocacy? Man, it's actually crazy. So y'all have probably seen Chris Johnson on live streams, and so actually my first time speaking about OCD was a small keynote at a OCD Awareness Week event at the Yale Child Study Center in Connecticut for OCD Connecticut. And I was 17 years old. And then I went to the national conference. No, sorry, I was 16 when I shared at Yale and for the first time. Then I went to the national conference just as a attendee, and it was in LA. And man, it was like just so eye opening for me. I remember like the first time I like raised my hand and shared like an obsession I was having. Everybody else raised their hand in the support group I was in, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the right place. Like everybody has these things. Y'all are making me hungry in here. And then so I went to another panel at the conference, and it happened to be Chris Tronson's panel, who I consider like another older brother. And he had people share some testimonies from the audience, and I got up, and I was like the only one to get up really and talk. And I mean, little did I know that he thought it was my story was good to share. And man, he followed me down the stairs actually, and took me aside and said, "Hey, we need more young adults talking about OCD on our young adult track. Do you want to get involved?" And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And so because it was nice. It was really really nice to. It was part of that healing journey, right? To be able to serve others in this community is a major part of my healing journey, and my recovery. And I think that really has pushed my recovery. Is having this community and being able to inspire others to fight OCD too. And so I ended up talking. Man, I ended up talking at the next 9 or 10 conferences, and became a lead advocate in 2021. 2021 is when we did lead advocates, and in 2019 I was given the Hero Award for my advocacy work. Which I was super honored. That was a day like no other. Because I said in my acceptance speech, like everybody else in the crowd was my heroes for showing up that day, and for showing up to the conference, right? Like Like now, like yeah, I'm the one on the screen, but like you guys in the comments are my heroes. Um, for the way you show up for each other and for the community every day, and for how the way you show up for yourself. Um, and so I was uh I was very, very blessed to be kind of just thrown into the fire of sorts at the IOCDF, and I was able to start speaking, and then I helped co-found the Anxiety and Athletes Initiative after um, being a college strength coach for 5 years. I was around. I saw a lot of stigma in athletics around uh, mental health in general. And so for me, a big point of emphasis is breaking down the stigma around mental health in and OCD around in athletes and athletics. So that's kind of been a core mission of mine and my purpose, my drive. Advocacy comes in all different sorts. I mean, there's so many different ways to advocate. Speaking, if you don't want to speak, you could write. If you don't want to write, you could volunteer, right? There's so many different ways. Creative expression, Erica does a phenomenal job with creative expression. um, Definitely get involved in that if you're interested in arts, right? And faith and OCD, Katie O'Don does a tremendous job running the sig for that. So there's just so many different options when it comes to advocacy. Even just being in line somewhere and educating someone after they say, I'm so OCD, is advocacy, right? So just showing up and being your authentic self and educating someone is advocacy, right? So there's no, specific shape or expectation. Gail, yeah, anxiety in the classroom would probably be your best bet. It's a website on the IOCDF website. I'll have Amanda tag it in the comments. There it is. Anxiety in the classroom. Those are some really, really great resources for specifically for students and for academics. Got about 7 minutes left, so I'm happy to keep talking and happy to answer any last minute questions you guys might have. Wow, it really got dark here. If you like hearing me talking to my microphone, I also have a podcast called Smalls Talk. It's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Definitely listen to that as well. Obviously, I'm not usually on live streams unless I'm filling in for Ethan or a guest speaker. I love how you guys have shown up for Beth today and encouraged her in her walk of life and her OCD journey. So awesome. And Beth, we are all behind you and totally support you 100%. Thank you for saying thank you, Dusty. It was my pleasure to be here, filling in for the one and only Ethan Smith. I know it's when you log on and you see me instead of Ethan, I know it can be kind of upsetting because when you're expecting Ethan, you want Ethan. So I get it. But I hope I did justice. And my mom wants me to talk about anxiety in athletes. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, if you're an athlete, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, check out iocdf.org/anxiety and athletes. It's our all athlete hub for anxiety, OCD, and related disorders. We have a bunch of resources from different authors and different different athletes, different perspectives. So definitely check out Anxiety and Athletes as well. Nathan said, "I wish they would come up with a med that would make OCD go into complete remission permanently." So do I. Man, that would answer a lot of things. Gail, I'm super excited that you were here as a first time viewer. I think, yeah, I mean, I am a firm love you, mom. I'm a firm believer in the fact that the universe puts us in certain places to meet certain people, and there's a reason I filled in for Ethan tonight, and a reason you were a first time viewer tonight. So I'm super excited and thankful for you being here and showing up. It was a pleasure sitting in tonight. I'm glad I was able to call on my mom. You guys are all important to me, so definitely know that. I hope to see you all in person at the conference. I don't have pictures here. Um, Great to meet you, Ashton. Thank you for being here tonight. So if you see me at the conference, come up to me, introduce yourself, say hi, be my friend, and please, by all means, introduce yourself. Gail, I hope to see you in Orlando. I would love to meet everybody here, and definitely just hang in there and know that you have the support of the best community in the world. So definitely come say hi to me in Orlando because I'd love to meet all of you. I'm pretty approachable. Sometimes I have like a resting obsession face where I'm like trying to work through OCD, which we all do probably, but definitely I'm very approachable, super friendly. I'm kind of like a big teddy bear, so um, definitely come up and say hi. Thank you all for being here again. Just a reminder, uh, the IOCDF is a donor-supported nonprofit organization. Please consider making a donation at iocdf.org/donate. We'd love to hear from you. Take our live stream survey to tell us what you'd like to see on this platform. We look forward to your feedback. The survey can be found at iocdf.org/livestream survey. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And this live stream is one of many. You can see the entire schedule of future streams at iocdf.org/live streams. You can also view recordings of past live streams like this one if you want to watch it over and over and over again because it was so good, as well as watch our host answer your pre-submitted questions, OCD Mailbag. I came up with that name. Don't let Chris take credit for it. On IOCDF's YouTube channel and youtube.com/IOCDF. Remember to like and subscribe to get notified when live streams are scheduled. Sign up for IOCDF news and updates, https://iocdf.org/sign up. If you need resources or are looking for a therapist, please visit iocdf.org. And upcoming live streams supporting our families, Thursday, April 25th at 7 p.m. And then at 12 p.m. is Instagram Live Grassroots. And at 7 p.m. is supporting our families. And on Tuesday, April 30th, Community Conversations is back. Ethan will be back. And then Wednesday, May 1st, we have Ask the Experts at 12 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And I am with you, and I'm super excited to see you all in Orlando, hopefully. And just remember that all the struggle you face, you can turn into strength. Thank you, everybody.